The Public Order Ordinance is the principal law of Hong Kong relating to the maintenance of public order, the control of organizations, meetings, processions, places, vessels and aircraft, unlawful assemblies and riots and matters incidental thereto or connected therewith. The most significant version of the POU was passed by the British colonial government during the Hong Kong 1967 leftist riots to give the power to Hong Kong police to arrest the pro-communist rioters. The bill was published on 6 October 1967 and was passed into law on 15 November 1967 by the Legislative Council. Before the enactment of the 1967 POU, the law dealing with public order was to be found in a previous POU, the Peace Preservation Ordinance, the Summary Offences Ordinance, and in the common law. The 1967 version of the law was a consolidation of various pieces of pre-existing legislation. Under the revised POU in 1980, it generated a licensing system for gatherings in public place. The Public Order Bill 1986 raised concerns over the threat to freedom of speech as the government, on the one hand, took some potentially oppressive measures including its power to seize and suppress newspapers and other publications off the books, but on the other hand strengthened provisions against false news. The new provision stated that any person who publishes false news likely to cause alarm to the public or a section thereof or disturb public order shall be guilty of an offense. The pro-democrats argued the definition of false news was not clearly defined. In 1989, the government repealed the section on its own initiative. In 1991, the final years of the colonial rule, the Hong Kong Bill of Rights Ordinance Cap. 383 was enacted. A number of ordinances, including the POU that were thought to possibly violate the Bill of Rights, had to be reviewed. In 1995, most provisions in the law was repealed by the Legislative Council as part of the government to bring Hong Kong law in line with the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And the licensing system was replaced by a simple notification procedure. In October 1996, Democratic Party's legislator James II introduced a private member's bill to amend Section 6 of the POU to remove the power of the Commissioner of Police to control the extent to which music or speech might be amplified. The Secretary for Security Peter Lai moved an amendment to make it more explicit that the Commission of Police would exercise such power only if he reasonably considers it to be necessary to prevent an imminent threat to public safety or public order. The Secretary for Security's amendment was carried and the 1996 Amendment Ordinance came into effect on 20 December 1996. The People's Republic of China government was convinced that the 1995 amendment in the late colonial days was maliciously motivated and aimed at reducing legitimate public order regulatory powers of the Government of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. The PRC considered the Bill of Rights Ordinance and the 1995 POU to contravene the Hong Kong Basic Law. The Preliminary Working Committee for the HKSAR, an organ, oversaw the preparatory works for the transfer of the sovereignty, consisting members who were appointed by the PRC government, proposed to reinstate the POU. Therefore, on 23 February 1997, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress passed a resolution that under Article 160 of the Basic Law that major amendments to the POU would be scrapped. Following up the NPC's decision, the Office of the Chief Executive Designate proposed amendments to the POU, together with the Society's ordinance, and issued a hastily prepared consultation document, Civil Liberty and Social Order, to the public in April 1997. The proposed amendments created widespread criticisms that the future SAR government intended to restrict Hong Kong people's civil liberties. The colonial Hong Kong government even distributed a commentary criticizing the proposals in unusual manner. The CE office scaled down the amendments on 15 May. In result, the Hong Kong Provisional Legislative Council enacted the new version of the POU on 14 June 1997. And it came into force on 1 July 1997. The restored and amended provisions were seen as a halfway between the licensing and notification systems. The 1997 amendment of the law gives government the power to prohibit a public meeting or procession on the grounds of national security and the protection of the rights and freedoms of others, in addition to pre-existing grounds of public safety and public order. Under the Section 17A, any failure to do is a criminal offense and may face an imprisonment term of up to 5 years. The details of the current version of the PO that restrict the right of assembly. On the other hand, certain statutory safeguards are present in the PO. Public gathering, public meeting, and public procession under the PO is defined with reference to the term public place. All